Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the Travelers Championship. These are my money picks, my favorite bets. First off, thank you for stopping by, and good news, I am still commercial free and not trying to sell you anything. Just trying to give you my advice and what I think makes sense to me from DFS and favorite bets. So with that said, let's get into this. So first off, if you missed the preview show, I always go over the stroke gain kind of skill set rankings on how you will win at the Travelers Championship. So ultimately, what are the type of players that we're looking for? And the number one thing that I think you're going to need here is be really good on approach, ball striking, putting's right there next. Good drives, you need to be able to hit fairways or at least edges and be able to hit on your approach. Birdie or better opportunities, and of course converting those birdies around the green, and sand saves show up quite a bit of guys that have had success here in the past. Of course, the proximity of the pin, because a shorter length course, is going to fall under 125, 150 is where typically the shots will come in, but also 150 to 175 shows up. And then, of course, gaining strokes on the par fours that are 450 to 500, there's 7 of those. You got 4 par threes, so you got to be efficient there. And then, of course, we only have 2 par fives that are ranging between about 545 to 575, and we need to make eagles if possible, but worst case birdie, or you're going to be losing some ground to the field. And as I stated, I always kind of go through and really kind of pick apart the possible comparable courses. And the ones that I like best are probably the top 2 over here. You got the Charles Schwab, which we just saw him there. Of course, that's at Colonial. It is a par 70, less than 7,200 yards, and it is bent green. So everything kind of fits up there. It's an older style course. You've got the trees. So a lot of similarities there. You've also got the Military Tribute, or also known as the Greenbrier. And of course, that is played at the old white TPC course, par 70, also bent grass, and less than 7,200 yards. So, and I don't know if I mentioned, but Charles Schwab is, of course, played at Colonial. So those are probably the best 2 fits. But I also think Shriners is not a bad fit. That's at TPC Summerlin. Now, it's a par 71, but it is still less than 7,200 yards, so extra par 5 thrown in there, hence why scoring might be a little better than here. And, of course, you got bent greens. You got RBC Heritage at Harbortown, a Pete Dye course, par 71. Now, that's Bermuda greens, but is also less than 7,200. And the playability of that course, I think, is a little tougher than what the guys will face here at TPC River Highlands, but a lot of similarities. And then you also got the John Deere Classic, which they did not play last year, but will be playing this year coming up. And that's at TPC Deer Run, par 71, bent less than 7,200 yards. Funny enough, some of the, just off the top of my head, when I think of John Deere, and then of course I also think of where we're playing here at the Travelers, Jordan Spieth has won at both courses and would have been a good fit. And again, I think I mentioned this in the previous show, kind of shocked he's not playing. And then lastly, just a few others that I'll ping, where the PGA Harding Park was played in 2020. That's a par 70 on bent and less than 7,200 yards. You also got where the Northern Trust is played at the FedEx. I actually have a couple of FedEx Cup events, the last 2. We're going to look at the one that was played at TPC Boston last year. That's a par 71 on bent. And that one actually is a little bit longer, between 7,200 to 7,400, depending where they move the tees. And then last but not least, the BMW Championship, which is the second FedEx event. I'm going to be looking at the 2020 because that was played at Olympia Fields Country Club. That's actually a par 70 bent and around 7,300 or less yards. So those last 3 events, the playability was a little harder, probably feels a little better. But again, from a course, I think there's some similarities. So that's the 7 different tournaments / courses that I'll be going against the players that I'm picking. It just gives me that, I guess, that next feeling of, okay, from stroking it looks good. From recent form, they look good. How have they played at these typical courses from a course fit? And that's kind of what helps me kind of finally start to finalize, right? When you have 156 guys you're picking from, that's my methodology. Okay, with that said, let's go jump into the analysis and talk about the guys that I'm recommending this week. Okay, so now jumping over to Fantasy National. Again, not affiliated, but I highly recommend. I think for $8-10, you guys can try it out for a week if you're doing, any of your own analysis and you're not super happy with what you got. Once you learn this tool, it's an amazing tool for doing research and analysis. And just to give you a quick understanding of what we're looking at here, if you watch the previous show, I do kind of larger models looking at more stroke gain analysis areas. And then when I go in, which this is called sneak peek, it's just an easier way to consume information. So I kind of slim down the model. And so what the main things I'm looking at is approach, putting, ball striking, good drives, and proximity to the pin, that 125 to 150. I always put kind of a key area that I think is going to be for guys that are successful here. I think putting. I was between birdies and putting, and kind of ended up on birdies, and it's showing you the splits over here. So how they do on bent versus Bermuda versus POA. And then, of course, you've got recent results, and tournament history is always good from a visual side, just to quickly kind of reference. And the only filter that I am putting on is bent greens. Why I'm doing that is because then what it does is it's pulling from a lot of those courses that I already mentioned. You know, of course, it'll pull previous at the Charles Schwab, but also here at TPC River Highlands, it'll pull the Greenbrier. You know, it'll pull the courses that I want to reference the data against. And I also put 24 rounds. Typically, I do 12, but I actually made it a little longer because some of the courses, probably the last 3 or 4 tournaments, maybe not Palmetto, but, you know, Valspar, PGA US Open, Memorial, right? They've been playing some difficult tracks, and I don't think it gives a good representation of their skill set on a course like this. And so I want to pull from, you know, the AT&T Byron Nelson. I want to pull from Charles Schwab. I want to include some tracks that this is going to play more like. So in short, that's why you see that. So this data is pulling off the last 24 rounds, or if you think of it like the last 6 tournaments, and then same with the putting. So that's where this data is kind of coming from. Okay. With all that said, you know, right at the 11,000 range, you've got to make a decision. Well, you don't have to. You can actually skip by this. And I actually was skipping by it for a while. I was actually going to start with Cantlay, but then the more I kind of dug into Bryson, I had to, you know, kind of go to him, and I'll explain why. The reason why I'm passing on DJ, you know, even though DJ, of course, is a past winner here the previous year, and he's just still the game. It's not bad as you see. It's getting better. I just feel like, and I thought this kind of my methodology. Okay, so Brooks I'm passing on simply because it's a regular event, and I think he's probably a little burned out, and he doesn't, I feel like, doesn't really put the full effort in. I honestly think he's here to get Chase, his younger brother, in the field. I think it was like, yeah, I'll play in your tournament. You got to get my brother on a, you know, sponsor's invite. So that's my narrative or theory on that. And so Brooks is out for me right off the bat on that reason. And then, like I said, between these two guys, when you start to dive into the details, it's amazing that DeChambeau, what he's done at this field or at this tournament, but also in against the courses that I wanted. And so if we kind of scroll down here, and if I just plug in, of course, the Travelers, you can see over the last 3 years, you know, all top 10s or better. And so that's one area. So, you know, horses for courses on that. The Charles Schwab, so recently he had a 3rd place. Well, I take that back. That was not in this year, but it was in 2020. He had a 3rd. He's also had some miscuts there, but, you know, I try to look at the most recent kind of information. Now, the Greenbrier, that was a couple years ago. He had a miscut, but he also had a 14th. And then, of course, if I look at Shriners, he's won there back in 2018. Again, all top 10s. And again, I think it's, you know, that's a course that's a lot of scoring, a little easier track, if you want to put it that way, but very, I think, somewhat similarities as in, you know, distance and, of course, the putting surfaces. If we go look at RBC, which is funny, is that if you think of Bryson, these smaller kind of, I'd say tactical courses or strategical, more of a thinking man course, you would not think he would play well, but he actually does. And you can see at the RBC, probably in my mind, when I think of a course that you really have to navigate and use some thought, it would be at Harbortown at RBC. And you can see, you know, yeah, he's had a couple miscuts, but if he doesn't miscut, he's two tops better than 5, and then an 8th. So you could see why. And then actually the John Deere, now this is back in 2017, but again, I think a very applicable course. I think from how it plays with the trees and, you know, everything from the greens to the length, I think it's a great fit at TPC Deer Run. Right now, and a lot of these are TPC courses, but he actually won there. So that was, again, some of the reasoning. And then I'll go look at just the last couple ones. So You look at the PGA, we want to look at this one in 2020. Again, that was played at Harding Park. Of course, that's where Morikawa won, but he had a 4th place finish there. If I look at the Northern Trust, we want to look at this one. So he actually had a miscut at TPC Boston. And then the last one is the BMW, and he had a 50th. So a couple of the FedEx events, not as well, but everything else just lines up that if you're going to make a decision here at the 11K, and there's only 2 guys, you got to go with Bryson. And I think Bryson's worth the money. The guy, also from like the birdie perspective, he was doing pretty well on that for the past like few months. So get you some points. The guy, it should be worth that, that dollar. And so that's who I'm recommending at that range. I already mentioned Brooks. So really, again, as I mentioned, I was going to start at Cantlay, and I think you could definitely do that. You don't need to have one of these guys. But the more I kind of dove into Bryson, also I think he, again, this is a total narrative. I think he's just going to be pissed off of what happened on the back 9 at the U.S. Open and want to come out and kind of redeem himself. That's the hopes. That it's not. You could also flip that and say, well, maybe he's just burned out. But I would hope he'd pull out. And who knows? I'm recording this on Tuesday, a little after 2 o'clock. Some of these guys might pull out. I think right now for sure, Steve Stricker, which you'll see on DraftKings, tells you very clear that he's backed out, which no worries there. Okay, so moving on to Patrick Cantlay. Like I said, the guy that I was thinking about actually starting my lineups at. Let's go dive into him and look at some of his information. So on Bent, you can see is his best putting surface. And we bang him against some of the tournaments. So, of course, we look at his Travelers. Top 15, top 15th, 11th. We look at the Charles Schwab. Need to type a little more. So a miscut, only played there once, 2018. What about the Greenbrier? So that's a while ago, a 23rd and a 38th. What about Shriners? So he won there in 2017, a couple runner-ups. So note to self, Patrick Cantlay is always live at TPC Summerlin. And he had an 8th recently. RBC at Harbortown. So a miscut recently, but before that, a 3rd, a 7th, a 3rd. A lot of people probably got burned on that one. Never played the John Deere. What about the PGA? So he had a 43rd at Harding Park. That's the one I want to look at. Northern Trust. Actually missed a cut at TPC Boston. And the BMW. Where is it at? This is one we want to look at here. Olympia Fields, he had a 12th. So, again, I think from a comparable course side, you can see from the model everything except the 125 to 150. It's lacking a little bit, but good on Bent. And he's actually been showing some better form, of course, after his miscuts prior. Patrick Reed, I mean, this guy, I probably will still plug him in some lineups. He's just not going to be in my core. But, again, positive on Bent. If you go kind of look at some of his comparables, you could definitely make a strong argument. But, I actually decided to go with Casey, $100 savings. You can, of course, see the guy's been just stellar. Hasn't won here, but, a T2, a T5, a T5, so he really likes playing here at TPC. And it actually fits the model that I think from like an elite ball striker. It's just whatever the putter does. And if we go into this a little further, you can see his best putting surface is bent over his career. And you know what? I should probably also just, I'll turn this on so you can see his approach over his career. And you probably want to just look kind of over here. And as long as this is trailing up, that's a good sign. You can also look at it here. Been gaining quite a bit. Gained 8 strokes at the PGA. Gained 5 strokes at the U.S. Open. So the approach is doing well. And you can see pretty over the last 8 events, he's been gaining there. The putter has been what's been holding him back a little bit. And I already showed you the Traveler, so we know he had a good record there. If I look at Charles Schwab, that's back in 2017, but he had a 10th. If we look at the Greenbrier, again, that's a little whiles back. What about Shriners? He missed a cut in 20. RBC Heritage. Funny enough, I think I remember this, that he seems like a really good fit for RBC at Harbortown. And for whatever reason, he just does not do well there. Never played the John Deere. So at the PGA at Harding Park, I'm sure you probably remember this. Of course, he came in second behind Morikawa. So good showing there. The Northern Trust, a 49th. Not such a good showing there. And the BMW at a 16th. And again, these are the ones, the 20s, 2020 is the courses that I think best fit. So I like Paul Casey. I mean, I think he's going to be probably, you see, already projected ownership at 20%. Probably going to be super chalky. But, you know, again, like Rom last week, it's kind of hard to not pick someone. You know, you can eat the chalk there. We got to find the differentiation as we kind of move down the board. And I'll do a little bit of that. Today I've got some different plays, but my value plays. And that's really how you win. If you're looking at the big DFS games, the mass entries, it's finding the gems. It's finding, the Russ Henley that pops up at the U.S. Open, or of course Mackenzie Hughes. Those guys are the differentiators. A lot of these, plays up here, it's just trying to build your stable top end, and then it's finding the guys that are going to do well below. I think is how you win at DFS. Okay, sorry, got a little off base. Okay, so Scotty Scheffler, my next pick, 9,600. I know some of these you're going to see I got some high ones, but I definitely got some low ones for you too. So don't feel like, hey, this guy's stocking all up at top. Of course, been playing good golf. Actually did well with the putter at the U.S. Open. That's usually the one area that kind of holds him back. And if we go look at Scotty, so over the life of his career, he doesn't gain typically with the putter. Funny enough, for Scotty, typically where I get nervous when I have him is the 3 to 5 foot range. Give me him at 20, 25 feet, and I have a better confidence he'll make the putt than sometimes with a 3 or 5 footer. I don't know why that is. Again, if we go just real quick and look at his approach, long as this little end is on the way up, that's what we want to see. You can also see that here. So over the last 6 events, 4 of them he's gained with the irons. That's key. And then, of course, I mentioned how that putter has been heating up. So, doing a little better on that side. That's definitely going to need that here. Probably is the kind of the main reason why I'm on him. So he's played the Travelers once. He missed the cut. He missed a cut at Charles Schwab. So far, I'm not making a good case for this guy. 2019 at the Greenbrier, he had a 7th, so that's a little better. The Shriners, he missed a cut in a 74, so that didn't fit out. And then RBC, he's never played at Harbortown. Never played John Deere. So the PGA back again at Harding Park, he had a 4th, so that's a good showing. The Northern Trust, again, this is at Olympia. Let me think about this. Nope, that's TPC Boston. Sorry, he had a 4th. And then lastly, the BMW, he had a 20th. So in the FedEx events on the courses that I think are applicable, he had a good showing. Of course, you can see some of the other ones. So you can also see that on approach over his last, putting was down a little bit, but I showed you how that's coming up over the last 24. And approach has been okay too. So this is more of a recent form decision for me than saying, every comparable course I banked him against. And like I said, you're going to see also my main model. That's what you see here on the left is the big model where they rank. And so you can see sometimes they're not going to be perfect. There's just other things that I've got to make a decision on. I'm just not going by what the model tells me. Kevin Streelman, of course, he's had success here. His last year he had a 2020. Great iron player. The putter's been picking up. You can see great recent form. This always makes me actually funny enough. I've always said if you see a guy sitting in the 15s and the teens, that they're ready to could win. But I've also seen when they have a long run of no miscuts that you're kind of waiting for that bomb. You can see he's been gaining on bent a little bit over the last 24 rounds. And then we go on Kevin and jump in to look at some more analysis. Now you can see the putter is what's held him back over his career. And I want to click this on approach. And again, as long as at the end we see it going up, that's a good sign. And we can see that here. So, I mean, literally, hence why he's probably been, except he missed a cut at the Valspar. It's been doing really good on there. And the putter has finally been clicking a bit. So the Travelers, I'll just pull up again because this will give you a longer look at his history. So he's had a 2nd and 8th. Of course, he won back here way back in 2014. He's also got some miscuts sprinkled in, but overall, the body of work, I give him like a B+, almost an A-. So, horses for courses, he looks good there. Charles Schwab, he had a 20th recently. So that's good. We look at the Greenbrier. A couple miscuts, but that was a couple years ago. Shriner's a couple miscuts, but funny enough, he's had some success there. Again, it's been a while ago. Kind of funny enough, at the beginning, he kind of started out nicely and then got a little worse as it went. So Just must have been where his game's at. And that's a lot of the times, when we do this comparison courses, if you go back and you kind of just see their game, how it, it's trending up, and then everybody has their dips and then it trends up. And it's just sometimes, no matter the course is a fit or not, if you're on a good trend playing good golf, you're going to do well. So you also sometimes I look into that. RBC, again, he's had a third, a sixth, a seventh, but recently a miscut in 2020, a 33 really recently. So that's okay. John Deere, he's at a seventh and an eighth, but a couple miscuts in there. But most recent, that was 2018. PGA Championship, we want to look at this one here. He had a 58th. And let's take a look at the Northern Trust. Recently, it was a 61st, so that's not too spectacular. And then the BMW, we're looking at this one, he had a 51st. So, again, I think it's a good course fit, and he's just been playing good golf. I look at him and Scotty at the same. All right, Matthew Wolff, of course, I picked him last week as a bet. And I don't think I picked him as, maybe I did. I don't remember, to be honest, if I picked him as a value play. Yes, I did. I did pick him as a value play because I remember he was my third guy in. For this course, you could go back and forth. But yeah, I think I'm going to maybe save him for a showdown play. But for my overall, and again, just so you understand, this is the perspective of the big DFS games. So I think this week is $250K. $20 entry. So that's what this is what this analysis is for. But, a lot of these guys from a showdown perspective, anyone can get hot for one day. So, we'd have to look at Wolff's round one trends. But from everything, I feel like he always comes out of the gates pretty hot and kind of falters a little bit. Tony Finau, you can see he ranks fifth in my model, but just everything that Tony's been doing recently, he doesn't have terrible comparables. I've already looked at it. Funny enough, if we look over his last 24 rounds, he's actually gained just slightly on bent, which I think on all his surfaces is down. But I'm going to pass on Tony. It could be a good spot for him. So I couldn't fault you for putting him in. I'm a little more keen to Abraham Answer, and I think, sad to say, so is a lot of other people. He's another super chalky guy. Still, both these guys, and I know Tony won the Puerto Rico, but as far as I'm concerned, Tony's really never won a PGA tournament. And so I look at both of them as to get their, real first tournament. I would, if I had to put against the two, I want to Answer. And you can look over here, over his results versus Tony. So you can see, a couple of miscuts here, but he's had some success at this course in the past. That's, not the only reason. Again, if you go look at his success on bent, so he's gaining almost a half stroke on bent over his last 24 rounds. Over his life of his career, gains slightly. It's his best putting surface. I guess that's one way to put it. If we look at strokes gain approach over his career, he is on a definite uptick. That's a good thing. Kind of reference here too. Gained 7.5 at the Wells Fargo where he had a second. Gained 2.5 at the PGA. He had to miscut recently, but still gained on approach. Just lost with the putter and around the green. I'm not so concerned. Usually you see the guy's steady off the tee, which I like that here. So everything for me kind of lines up. And then we'll run through we already looked at the Travelers. Great, good form there. The Charles Schwab, even recently had a 14th, the 14th prior. So he's good at the Colonial. Greenbrier's a little while back, but that's a 47th. Look at Shriners, TPC Summerlin. He's had a couple fourths. Also has some miscuts, so it's kind of either make or break. But that tournament, that's a difficult one. If I went in and did the analysis, I know in 2020 you had to be 7 under to actually make the cut. So you could literally, I think, if I remember correctly, you shot 6 under for 2 days and not made the cut. So that shows you what a shootout that place is. RBC Heritage had a second in 2020, 18th recently. So that fits. Everything from my perspective, and and if you've been watching golf quite a bit, and this is kind of his jam. This is where he should do well. The PGA, what I'm looking at is the 43rd at Harding Park. So that's where he ended up there. Northern Trust, he had a miscut at the one I'm looking at TPC Boston. And last but not least, BMW at Olympia Fields, he had a 33rd. Okay, but I like him. I might create a few lineups depending on where his ownership's coming in tomorrow. Without him, like I said, you've got to create some differentiation. You could do it below. But again, I don't know if I want to put Casey and Answer together. Both at almost 20% projected ownership. All right, Joaquin Niemann, he's had a decent, let me do that again. So he had a T5 in 2019, a 63rd, so a decent kind of course history here at TPC River Highlands. His recent form, I don't know, kind of meh. I don't think it's great, but you can see his best putting surface, I think, when we click on this. But over his last 24 rounds, he's been gaining almost a half stroke. Let's go click. I'm pretty sure over his life, yeah, it's the only putting surface that he has actually gained strokes against the field. And if we look at the putter, you can see here it's been doing pretty well. A little higher than, of course, gaining 5 strokes, 5 strokes. He actually lost at the U.S. Open. And then if we go do also the strokes gain approach, like I said, just visually, he had a little dip, but, kind of still on the way up. So that's okay. You can see, here's one, but all the other rest, good off the tee, good on approach. Around the green is where he struggles. Hopefully he just hits greens and doesn't have to worry about that. So we already showed the Travelers, 63rd and a 5th. Let's see what the Charles Schwab recently had a 50th and a 32nd. If we look at the Greenbrier. So this actually pings me now. This was one of the reasons why Niemann got on my radar. I think the Greenbrier, the old white course, is a great comp course for this. And so they said a 5th and a 1st. If he could win there, I think it's very applicable. He could win here. If we look at Shriners, pretty good showings, a 10th, a 13th, and 1 miscut. If we look at RBC, at a 5th in 2020. Not sure he had a 10th at the John Deere or 23rd. So from a comparable course side, this guy gets like an A. He did have a miscut at Harding Park for the PGA. At the Northern Trust, a miscut at Olympia. So struggled a little bit in the FedEx. And then he had a 3rd, though, funny enough, at Olympia Fields. The Northern Trust was TPC Boston. So everything I like about Joaquin, his price, a little pricey, I think, for Joaquin. But again, not that as strong as field. And also he's at 11%. So not as bad from a projected ownership. I'll be curious where Bubba comes in. Of course, he's had, I think, has he had 3 wins here? I know for sure he's had 2 wins. I think he's had 3 wins at this course. Let me let's see if it pulls it up. Sometimes it won't pull it up if it doesn't have stroke gain data. If I type in the Travelers. So it shows up 2 wins. I have a feeling he's had 3. I just think it was prior to stroke gain data, maybe. But the guy's had a ridiculous form here. And honestly, with him and Phil, I think I mentioned this before. For me, I just don't picture this kind of course fitting those guys that well. I'm thinking about, I guess, again, you got to do some shot making on some certain holes, bend it here or there. You can see also in my model, he shows up 3rd. Again, am I saying not to play him? No. I'm betting on some other guys. And again, from a DFS perspective, will I have a lineup or 2 of him? Yes, but I'm not putting all my stock in. You can also see, not in the best of form. So great course history. You could say recent form is a little, he had, I think, 1 good day, I think on Saturday at the U.S. Open, if I remember correctly. I think he had okay Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I felt like he did his best, and his Sunday kind of stunk it up. That's what I remember. So instead, I'm going to go to Brian Harman. He's been playing a little better golf recently. You can see, all top 20s over the last 4 tournaments. You can see he's had some good success here. So cut recently, but a T8, a T6, a T35. And then if we also go look at Brian Harman. And also, again, usually I try to build lineups, and, this is nothing new where you'll, hold on a second. I actually want to show something. So he's actually been gaining almost a stroke on bent. So I wanted to show that because when we go into this, it's going to show over his life that he's just neutral, and that's not the case. Sorry, I lost my track of thought because I was saying something else about Brian. That's interesting. He's tailing up here, but that's kind of crazy over. I got to see this from a different. So over his last 3 rounds, he's been gaining on approach. What did I click on there? Yeah, strokes gain approach, huh? But yeah, the putter, what I was kind of, about building lineup. So I don't think for me, typically you'd build the all around the green putting plotter lineup, and then you'd build the bomb and gouge. Honestly, I think I'm going to lean towards a mix. So I'm going to put in some really good around the green putters, plotters, mixed in with some of the bombers, like so. Hence, put DeChambeau with Brian Harmon. I don't think I'm going to go with the all bombers and all plotters kind of lineups. That's just because, like I said, this course is shown over and over that you can have both skill sets to win or do well here. Okay, let's go look at some comparables. I'm kind of getting sidetracked here. All right, so I already showed you his Travelers history. A lot of good. A couple miscuts, one in 2020, one in 2016. But other than that, pretty solid. If we look at his Charles Schwab, he had an 8th recently, a 23rd, a 7th, a 10th, So solid at Colonial. Look at Greenbrier, he had a 3rd, but that's back in 2019. But still, that's good. I mean, it's not too out of recent. Done well as Shriners, a 13th and 18th, a 15th. So again, TPC Summerlin's done well. Harbortown, I mean, I think it's decent, a 13th recently and 9th. Kind of funny. I just think that he would do even better than what he's done there. But John Deere, he actually won that in 2014, a 10th and a 26th. So he likes TPC Deere Run. And let's check out the PGA in 2020. He had a 58th. Northern Trust. He had an 11th at TPC Boston. And then last but not least, at the BMW Olympia Fields, he had a 12th. So, again, everything kind of, for me, says Brian Harmon should do very well here. So, I was looking at Cam Smith. And, honestly, when you do the comparables, everything, again, you could kind of flip a coin on him. But I is ultimately decide I'm going to kind of go against or go off him. Charlie Hoffman, for 1 point, I had him picked. And then the more I kind of dug into it, I'm kind of like, you know what? I think I actually went to Brian Harmon instead. So Hoffman was one of my picks. And then kind of last minute roster change. Siwoo Kim, you could always make an argument playing Pete Dye. Does well, always at Pete Dye. You can see his tournament history here. Not too bad. If we go to recent results, had that withdrawal at the Schwab, which that's not good. But yeah, I think he just blew up. If I remember right, I don't think it was an injury. I think he maybe claimed injury, but I think he just had a really bad round and just said adios. Justin Rose, just, I don't know. I don't know what to do with that guy. I don't play him a lot. He's just not my flavor. So, again, I really don't have a whole lot of input on that. You can see he's done all right putting. That's been kind of his one key thing. He's been doing well. Everything else is kind of suspicious. I'm going back to Russ Henley, and it's not because of the model ranking. It's because, and of course, it is a little bit because of what he did at the U.S. Open. I'm not going to lie about that. But I was on Russ Henley, and I mentioned this, I think, on my recap of the U.S. Open, heavy for a while. Right? He had that great kind of run there at the CJ Cup and the Zozo back in 2020. I saw a form that I was just like, this guy is just, an automatic world, like just sticking next to pins, making putts. Like it was just, and so I was excited when he was going to get to the Florida swing. That typically he's done his best work on Bermuda. But I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'm going to give him another chance. Almost like Patty Kazire. He is not in my top picks, but I can pretty much guarantee you that he is going to be a value play. So just, get ready to that. My Brokeback Mountain pick that I don't know if I'm going to be able to ever quit. But you can see on Bent, over his life, he, gains a little bit. It's a tiny bit. He's always just been a master of the approach. Where did it go? Sorry. So you can see trending up on approach. You see where life his career is where he makes his hay. So approach and typically putting. Trying to see. So you can see this is what I was talking about. So he had this really good run here back, in the fall of 2020. And so I was pretty excited when we were going to get into the Florida swing. And then, missed a cut at Valspar, missed a cut at the Players, So he's kind of had some spurts here or there. If we go look at some of his comparables. So last time he played at the Colonial, it was a 58th. That was a while ago, 2018. We look at Greenbrier. He's done well there, a couple 5th place, but recently a 57th. He's at a 10th. We look at Shriners, a 27th recently. A 10th is best. What else? RBC, he's had a 9th, a couple miscuts, a 6th. Again, of course, but his driver is what, if he can get his driver from going all over the place, the guy could be deadly. So pretty much he goes as his driver goes. That's how I see it. A 37th at Harding Park at the PGA. The Northern Trust, he had an 8th, and that's at TPC Boston. That's the one we want to look at. And then lastly, the BMW at Olympia Fields, he had a 25th. Okay, so almost a little bit, like I said, like the Patty Kazire, I quit him for a bit, but I'm back on him, and who knows? I hope he doesn't burn me and if you guys play him. Okay, Harris English, a little bit of the same, right? He had a great showing at the Tournament of Champions, and then went into a doldrum, and his, all of a sudden he's kind of kickstarted his career, his career again, or whatever you want to state. Over his last 24 rounds, he gains over a half stroke on bent. So I like that. He does everything well here. He's definitely not JT with the proximity 125 to 150, but not many people are. What I know about Harris is it's just kind of an effortless game. Either he effortlessly stinks or he effortlessly just makes birdies, and just goes nuts. So it's all depending. You can see over the life that bent is his best surface. If I go to the stroke gain approach over the life of his career, you can see this dip here, and then it's worked its way back up. You can also see it here. I mean, you can see it tracked where his approach, and usually approach and putting is what typically dictates someone's success as far as I'm concerned. So the Traveler is kind of a mixed bag. Best was a 7th. So not the greatest history here. Let's see what he's done at the Charles Schwab. So pretty good history at Colonial, a 5th, a 2nd, but recently had a miscut, a couple 20s in the 20th percentile area. Shriners, kind of same thing, kind of a mixed bag, a 4th and a miscut recently. What about RBC? He had an 8th, a miscut recently. So you can see that kind of doldrum period he was in. John Deere, nothing to write home about there. Let's see what he did at the PGA in 2020. He had a 19th at Harding Park and a Northern Trust. He had a 2nd. So he had a good FedEx Cup playoff start. And then the BMW, he had a 40th. So, you know what? Kind of same thing. Little recent form. Good comparable. Good on Bermuda. Good on bent. So I like that. Kind of out on these guys. Higo, I'll probably sprinkle him in a couple lineups. I have to. Kind of picked him last to win, or I picked him in the top 15 and he won. Also had a bet, so I'm kind of committed. Keegan too. I'll probably sprinkle a little. It's all about the putter with him. If he gets hot, I'm gonna have to kind of take a pass on Max for a bit. Of course, Phil Mickelson, which was on my opening slide, or opening kind of scene, whatever you want to call it. It is technically a slide. I just put that on there. I'm not picking him, but I just thought the pictures were kind of funny. But of course, he's had great success here, and playing some decent golf. So again, could not blame you for picking him. We'll see where's I think I'll put him in 1 or 2 lineups with that kind of projected ownership, but we'll see where that all shakes out. Molinari actually just seems like a good play here. But funny enough, let's go on him. Because I looked at him and was like, oh, why not Molinari? So you can see not the best on bent, not the best putter, period. If we look at his approach, kind of life history, kind of flat, as you see there. And of course, he had that 13th at the U.S. Open. And what I kind of started to gleam about Molinari is that he plays well at tough courses, and the easy courses not that great. So you see his history at the Travelers, nothing to write home about. The Charles Schwab, a 53rd. The Greenbrier, he's never played. What about RBC? So, of course, like RBC, again, you'd think would fit Molinari. One time, maybe one of the best iron players out there. It was always a putter. So he'd hit fairways, stick the ball, within 5 feet, and it's all depending if he could actually make the putt or not. What about John Deere? So he's had a 2nd at the John Deere. That was back in 2018. He did not play in the PGA 2020. He was on the hiatus, buying his house in California or whatever it was. So nothing. He didn't play in the FedEx at all for what I'm looking for. Okay. So anyways, that's kind of my analysis on Molinari. It seems like play him on some of the tougher tracks, and the ones that you think he should do well at, it doesn't seem. Sam Burns took me a while, but I'm going to take a pass on Burns again. Could do well here. Everything, there's some things that point to it, some things that don't, but just not enough. Tringali, I'll definitely sprinkle him in. You can see he's been gaining almost a stroke on bent. For whatever reason, I just decided to go with Doc. Some of his stuff just kind of made a little more sense to me, and I'll talk about in a second. So you can see from the modeling, everything here, he's doing well. He is gaining on bent, not as much as Tringali. He had that T11 here. That wasn't like the big reason. The honest big reason, and I didn't even put it down as one of my comparables. I think another decent comparable is the Detroit Country Club, where he came in second behind Lashley. That's bent greens. It's an old style course. It's more of like a runway though, right? It just kind of run the holes back and forth. So I didn't keep it, but you can see he's starting to get back to form with the. Well, let me just actually do approach. That was total strokes gain. So kind of trending up a little bit there. You can see it here. Gained 6 strokes at the Palmetto. That's a little bit. So I'm seeing a little bit of signs of life. I already said he had 11th there. The Charles Schwab. Nothing great there. Greenbrier hit a 24th, but that's 2019. Shriner's miscut a 42nd. RBC at 21st is about nothing real great there. PGA, that was at Harding Park at 29, so that's okay. Northern Trust, he miscut there. Then what about the BMW? He did not make it on. So, like I said, could be a coin flip. 7,600 each. Tringali right now is actually have lower ownership, but I'm gonna go with Doc. There's been some people talk. HV3's has some success around here. 32 at 21st. He's the one guy. Him and Neesmith, I'll never get right. So I'm just out on HV3. Jason Day, no thank you. Kevin Na. If I ever play Kevin Na, there's reasoning for it because I do not like Kevin Na. I shouldn't say that. I am terrified of Kevin Na, as in he's withdrawn on me in some of the worst situations. You can see over the last 24 rounds, he's not been gaining. He's not been in that great of form, but he did have a 5th here last year. And really, every comparable course, and when I think of this course, who could do well here, it's all about Kevin Na. So you can see over his life, he does gain on bent. He is super streaky with the putter. He can get crazy, crazy hot, or he can just miss everything. Strokes gain approach kind of flat. But you can see around the green, been doing well. The putter has been kind of on and off. Approach, at the Charles Schwab, he actually gained almost 7, but lost quite a bit off the tee. And you can see with Na, if he could just stay neutral, just hit fairways, man. You don't need to do anything special. But this is kind of what. So I already showed the Travelers. He's had a 5th, an 8th. So some decent history here. The Charles Schwab, he actually won there in 2019 at Colonial. Remember, he had the Charger gave to his caddy. And then a 32nd. So he's done well at Colonial. The Greenbrier, he's actually won back in 2018, a 4th. So that's at the old white course. Another great comparable course. At the RBC, he hasn't won as far as I remember, but he's at a 4th and an 8th, a 10th. So, some good showings there. The John Deere, he's had an 8th, a 13th, miscut in 2017. Nothing at the, nothing worth a hoot at the PGA at Harding Park. The Northern Trust, we want this one, a 39th. Nothing to write home about there. And lastly, the BMW, a 51st. But in short, this is my theory. With the Brennan Todds, the Kevin Nas, the Michael Thompsons, the Warinskis, there's just certain events that they have marked on their calendar that they know they have a chance to win. And I think they take it like it is their Masters. It is the coup de grace, because that's the tournaments that they could be applicable. 6 tournaments a year. And so that's my narrative, that this is one of those courses, one of those tournaments that Kevin Na is probably super focused on, going to give it all to try to win. And that's my theory. That's why I'm going with him. And he better not withdraw the morning of or whatever. But Aaron Wise, just this one, I'm not going to go through his comparables because there's just really nothing there. The guy's just been playing good golf. And like I said, I picked Aaron a few times. Bit of analysis on the side that he is way more comfortable with the putter, has really worked on it. Got his, the guy from tee to green can be very elite. You can see, is everything I pull up from a putting perspective is not going to tell you, hey, do this. But, well, let's just go click on his recent putting results. So there you go. So you can see the guy is already pretty elite from tee to green. It was just the putter that's been holding him back. I mean, you can see lost 10 strokes at Waste Management. Some struggles here, but I believe he has found something. And you put that together, a good putter or even a decent putter with what he can do from tee to green, I'm going to pick him. I'm sure I've already got a bet on him too. So anyways, that's Aaron Wise. I think my last, what's my last? So 2 more. All right, Emiliano Grillo, of course, been on the Grillo train. It's been showing a lot of good results. You could decent tournament history here. Again, a lot like Aaron Wise, really. I think pretty elite. His driver has been going a little wayward, but pretty elite tee to green. It's just a putter. And if we go pull up his comparables, just so you can see him. So you can also see out of all the surfaces over his career, which is a pretty long career, he does actually gain a hair on bent. So that's a positive, especially when we're talking about Grillo. Strokes gain approach on the way up ticker. You can also see that here. You can see he's had some success with putting, hence the good finishes. So I'm hoping that stays true, even though at the Memorial that did not happen. This is what I was talking about that's been making me nervous. Usually Grillo, as you see off the tee, is solid. But something recently he's been losing now. You can see he lost a ton at Wells Fargo. Somehow still had a 14th. But it's kind of leveled off, and I'm just hoping it can get back to just a hair in the green, and I'll be fine. All right, so the Travelers already showed that he's had a mix, decent. Nothing great. He's had a 3rd at the Colonial, an 8th at Colonial recently, so pretty good at Charles Schwab. The Greenbrier, he's never played. Shriners, he had a 34th and a couple miscuts. RBC, he had a 2nd recently, so that's good showing. A 16th, a 33rd. Again, I think a great comparable course here. Nothing at the John Deere. So the PGA at Harding Park, he had a 66. What about the Northern Trust? He had a 44th at TPC Boston. I don't think he made it. Nope, did not make it onto the BMW because he didn't do that well at the Northern Trust. So I like Grillo. I'm going to stick with him. And then my last but not least, Maverick McNeely. I would say this is kind of a differentiation, a little different. You can see the model's saying no, 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 and I'm saying yes, yes, yes. And I'll tell you why. So the bent, he gains over his last 24 rounds, gains almost a half stroke. You can see some recent results, but look at where it's either cut or he just kills it at the courses that I want him, the comparable side, where I think he's an excellent fit. Over life of his career, he gains on bent. We look from an approach side. You see it's been a little bit of a downward spiral, but recently, okay on approach. And then it's where the putter pops up. And pretty solid off the tee. He's got some distance. But let's go look at the comparables. So at Travelers, he's actually never played here. Charles Schwab. So he's done pretty well at Colonial. As you see, a 20th recently. The Greenbrier miscut in a 60th, but it's a while ago. We'll let that slide. Shriners, he's had a miscut in a 37th. That RBC, as I showed, he had a 4th place finish here recently. The John Deere had a 44. The PGA Championship, that's not the one I want. I don't think. He played Northern Trust. He had a 61st at TPC Boston. BMW, he had a 40th. But if we go and even look more at this, you can kind of just scroll through. So the Charles Schwab Colonial, done well. Harbor Town, done well. AT&T Pro-Am, that's at Pebble Beach. Short course, that's POA, but similar to what I'm looking at. The OHL did well. The Bermuda. So where he can play the Rocket Mortgage, as I already described to you guys, that's pretty sure that's bent. Let's just go confirm that. I might be. That's POA. But you can see between around 7,200 yards. I think a very similar kind of course. I have no problem there. Long story short, I'm on Maverick McNeely. It's probably one of my differentiators, but he's going to be in my core 15. And that's it. So let's go wrap this up. Okay, so let's go through my top 5 picks. And starting off, you've got Patrick Cantlay. I just have to use that pick. I think it's kind of funny. You got Abraham Answer. I think he's going to be the super chalky bomb. Oh, I shouldn't say a bomb. Hopefully he's not a bomb, but he's going to be super chalk. Bryson DeChambeau. You wouldn't think it'd be a great fit. Scotty Scheffler. Great form. Just keep that up. And then, of course, Casey. Typically, again, this is almost like one of those where everything tells you to play Paul Casey, and then he ends up missing a cut. But we're going to have to just go with that. He's been in good form, and he's got great course history here. Next, of course, Streelman's been playing great golf. Just keep that up. You got Griot. Just need you to start hitting the driver again better and keep that putter going. You got Joaquin Niemann, who's won at the Greenbrier. He fits this track well. I think his skill set. So I like Joaquin. I have a bet on him. I had to pull this picture of Russ Henley with the pop collar and the longer hair. So just keep what you did at the U.S. Open. Keep making putts. We should be all set. And then Brian Harman, I think could be someone very live here. Of course, Ches Reavie won here. I think of Ches Reavie. I think of Brian Harman. I think of Ryan Armour or Brian Moore. I mean, they all look alike and they all kind of play alike. They're all like smaller little plotters, doing their thing. Then I got Aaron Wise. Just keep that putter up and we could have some magic. Doc Redman coming back into form. Kevin Na, don't let me down. Every time I literally pick him, my heart skips a beat. And then, of course, Harris English getting back to form, and I think could do well here. And then last but not least, I'd say kind of my little volatile pick. I did pick Na, but also is Maverick McNeely. But I think could be that differentiator in your lineups that could do well. And then on to my favorite bets. So no shocker, I've got to stick with Kazire. So of course I already mentioned he is going to be in my value plays. I think he's 7,100. I'll show you all the analysis on him tomorrow. Everything says we got to play Patty. So maybe he did great in Texas and then kind of misfired. I believe, I don't know if it was at Colonial. No, I think he did good at Charles Schwab, but he had a misfire. I know that. But again, I'm betting him outright to win 100-1. Of course, Mackenzie Hughes. I haven't really talked about him, but he actually came out. I think I mentioned this in the previous show, the first round last year and shot a 60. The odds of that happening again are about 1,000,000,000 to 1, but I'm going to go ahead and bet him on round one leader. Who knows? He's, of course, just played well at the U.S. Open. Maybe, for another one round, comes out, has good feelings, and hit that 90-1 would be nice. And then lastly, I told you Maverick McNeely, this could be an opportunity for a win. I'm going to go ahead and bet that outright winner 125-1. So that's my long shot. Well, honestly, as you can see, I like to bet the longer shots. Now, I'll put on some more, stable bets. I don't really show you guys those. There's nothing to really talk about. It's the Abraham Answers and that kind of stuff. But the ones where you could get paid, and I think there's some reasoning on why we're putting the money there. That's the bets I'm going to give you. Okay, that is it. I appreciate you sticking with me through that. I hope that gives you some more ideas, gives you some more analysis that you can understand why I'm going with my picks. Also, of course, you can also say, hey, I saw some stuff there that I'm definitely not going with that guy, but I'm going to go with the other guy. I totally understand that. Again, if you like what I'm doing, just let me know. Click the like button. And if you would share this, we're trying to keep growing the community. And of course, subscribe. If you're checking this out and been checking me out and you like what I do, hit the subscribe button. It means the world to me. And I thank you for that. And then last but not least, if I can help you on anything from one and done, any questions, bets, whatever you're thinking, run it by me. I'll definitely give you my perspective. And you can do that on YouTube comments or on Twitter at DFS Golf Guru. Again, I've had some success here, guys. We had a good run at RBC, the Charles Schwab. I don't know what it is, but I've been hitting these smaller track kind of fields and courses a little better than I'm probably on the larger ones. So I'm excited. I feel good about this. Looking for a prosperous, as I mentioned, tournament. All the best, and check out my Value Plays show tomorrow where I'll give you ownership projections. We'll do the weather. I'll talk about some fades that I'm going to be fading. You probably already got a little bit of, from the discussion we just had there. But yeah, everything you need to know before the lock, that will be out tomorrow afternoon. All right, guys, take care and all the best.